Last video we talked about how to structure edit your novel, and today we are going to be talking a little bit about how to fine-tune this baby. So let's assume that you followed all my tips and tricks from the last video and that by now you've made any major changes that need to be made. You have checked for any glaringly obvious plot holes and mistakes, and you've shared with a few trusted beta readers to get their insights in the story. If they have offered any suggestions, then now will be the time to make any adjustments that you wish to make. Remember that a beta reader's opinion is just that, it's an opinion, okay? You don't have to listen or make any changes that you don't want to, but you do have to be open to the possibility that you might have missed some things or gone about them the wrong way. My rule of thumb is have at least 3 or 4 betas, preferably of different ages and maybe different sexes, so that you can get a wider range of opinions. If a beta pointed out something to me, I would immediately go and check my manuscript. If it was glaringly obvious, then I would fix it straight away. But if it wasn't, and I felt that I had a good reason for doing what I did, then I would likely leave it. But that's only if one beta pointed something out. If a majority pointed out the same thing, even if I didn't agree, I would seriously consider making a change. Your betas represent your readership, and if they are all noticing a problem, then it's highly likely that your readers will notice it too. One thing I will add here, make sure that your betas have experience in your genre. Picking a beta that never reads romance wouldn't be your target audience, so picking a teenager when you're writing for mature adults is silly. If they won't understand the novel and they won't understand how you meant it to be. So now you've changed the bits that need to be structurally changed, it's time to get down to the fine-tuning nitty-gritty. The first thing I suggest that you do is to brush up on your punctuation skills. There are plenty of ways to do this online for free, and I've also done a series of videos aimed at helping writers to understand and use punctuation correctly, and I'm always willing to answer questions. Punctuation is incredibly important. If it's used incorrectly or not at all, it can change the entire structure and readability of your sentence. I'm not going to go into a big long explanation on this because, as I've just said, I've done other videos on this, but I will just touch on a few of the basics. With dialogue, all punctuation must be within the speech marks. So exclamation marks, question marks, etc. must all be inside the marks. If you're using dialogue tags, then you must include that within your dialogue sentence. Now this doesn't mean that it must be within the speech marks, because it's not speech. Adding dialogue tags as a separate sentence creates confusion and disrupts the entire flow of the sentence. For example, "How dare you say such a thing?" Jason growled. This is incorrect because the full stop has done its job and it's ended the sentence. The dialogue tag has begun a new one. So it reads like Jason has spoken, stopped, and then just randomly growled. It should be written as, "How dare you say such a thing, Jason growled." The comma makes it a full sentence, even though the speech is still within its marks, and it shows that Jason growled out his words in a gravelly, rough kind of voice. Let's look at another one so we can make sure we got this. "But Stephen didn't know about the house," Jessica pointed out. This makes it look like Jessica spoke and then stopped and pointed outside. It should be written, "But Stephen didn't know about the house," Jessica pointed out. Always start a new paragraph when a new person begins to speak. This helps keep the conversation dialogue easier to understand and to pick out who is speaking and when. Always have an indent for a new paragraph. When a character is addressing another by name, you must always insert a comma before and after their name. Along with an overabundance of needless dialogue, too much stage direction is another thing that can clog up your novel and make it harder going on the reader. Readers like details, yes, but there is such a thing as too much. Jake used his right hand to pick up his black iPhone 7 from the table, scrolling down the screen with his thumb. Leaning casually against the mahogany wood door frame, he stuck his left hand in his back left pocket of his Levi jeans, checking to make sure he had the keys to his Mercedes. That was actually hard for me to write. Because while we want to breathe life into our characters and not have them standing around like statues, there is nothing wrong with keeping things simple. Jake grabbed his phone from the table, quickly scrolling through his notifications with one hand while checking his back pocket for his keys with the other. Simple, to the point, no brand name dropping, and no massive details. The aim is to give our readers just enough detail that they know what's going on and they can picture it in their heads, but leaving enough that they have to use their imagination to fill in the rest. Trimming your language is essential to keep your writing clear and concise. I know it's tempting to write the most flowery prose that you can imagine, letting your fingers dance over the keys as you weave beautiful poetry with your words. But in reality, it's just not that practical, and it can seem very old-fashioned. Great for period piece, not so much for modern novels. The use of big words is often seen by a writer as impressive, as a way of showcasing their grasp of language and their intelligence. But if you choose words that have the average reader reaching for the dictionary every 5 seconds, they will quickly become bored and they will just toss the book aside, labelling you as a pretentious idiot. Yet there is nothing wrong with using common words and language. Absolutely nothing wrong with it. Speaking of common words, this leads me nicely into our next tip, which is checking for common trouble words. Common trouble words is a name given to words that are often misused or mistaken, such as there, and there, to, a lot, affect, effect, into, it's. The quickest and easiest way to check these is by doing a search of your document using a search or find function in your writing program. Read through the whole sentence and make sure that you are using the correct spellings and correcting any mistakes. Redundant words is another good thing to check for, such as things like green like grass. That's redundant. We all know the colour of grass. Writers seem to think that they need to do comparisons for everything. Her eyes were as blue as a clear summer sky in a bright June day. There's nothing wrong with describing the colour blue that way, okay? But just make it simple. Sky blue. That's fine. Or if you do want to go a little bit more flowery, if you really can't hold back, as blue as the summer sky is more than enough, okay? Anything else is hedging into real cringy cliche territory. Talking of cliches, don't we just love a cliche? Okay, yeah, we love a cliche. But you're not going to be one of those writers that trots out cliches every single time, are you? Are you? Cold as ice? Warm as toast? Light as a feather? A cliche is something everyone is guilty of. But when you use the first thing that comes to your mind to describe something, then that's a good indication that it's a cliche. Something that's been used over and over again, so often that it's now commonplace. So, now your novel is fine-tuned. My last suggestion would be to print it out and again, leave it for a little while and read through it again with a marker pen and check out every last bit of punctuation and spelling that you can. Copy check names, dates and details. Check everything. It isn't foolproof. There will still be some mistakes that you will miss because you are only human, and it is incredibly hard to edit your own work. But you've done your best, and I would always suggest that you employ a professional proofreader if you can. It is so worth it. I hope this has helped. Until next time, blessed be and happy writing.